Hello, I am 13 and we are back this week. So, first things first, this deck actually has one more surgical in the sideboard, and the two surgicals are about a fifth of the price of the deck. So, let's get that out of the way. And then, no commander deck techs actually went up this weekend. I found myself needing to code some of the software for the camera. So, deck techs will be coming in the future. That's just the cost of doing business. But tonight, we're going to be playing Collected Fun-ementals. I say fun elementals because we are playing a bunch of non-optimal choices. We have a Yarok, an Omnath, a Horde of the Nation, Morophon, Multani. Like, we're playing the shell that's good with a bunch of non-optimal elementals. In fact, our curve's pretty bad here. Let's see if we can fix this. Okay. Yeah, that is a terrible curve, especially for a collected company deck. But let's break it down. First and foremost, we're going to be picking up the 5-color elemental shell that is just straight value. Risen Reef is absolutely unstoppable when it's not answered. Thunderkin Awakener and Vesper Lark make sure that it sticks around as well as getting a lot of value. So when elementals enter the battlefield, or when Risen Reef does, but essentially just any elemental, we get to look at the top card of our library. If it's a land, it goes into play. Otherwise, it's draw a card. And then we're going to be using Thunderkin Awakener to reanimate small elementals. Vesper Lark, you can evoke to get elementals. And we're basically just going to go off with that. Then we are a collected company shell. I've seen a lot of these lists playing Aether Vial. I think hitting 2 collected companies and getting double Risen Reef triggers is probably going to be valuable. In playtesting, I've actually milled myself on turn 3 just goldfishing, so we have some power in this deck. Then we are going to be running a cost reduction Lord so that we can actually cast our elementals for cheaper, as well as a Harbinger so that we can set up whatever we need at the moment, as well as a couple of fun tutor targets in Omnath, Yarok, and Morophon. We can essentially just go tutor whatever we need to with the Harbinger. It's primarily going to be Risen Reef, but as we actually get mana and can set up, we have these just massive elementals that do things. I almost put Big Omnath in here, but more importantly, these guys can actually reanimate Multani in the graveyard because he's a 0/0. I don't actually have a card for him, but that is our deck. We are going to be playing a bunch of fun elementals today, and hopefully we're going to put some damage in. This deck is mildly complicated. I know we've had some people say I'm not necessarily playing ideally, so there might be some punts, but that's just the cost of doing business. This hand is actually a Birds of Paradise into a Risen Reef, and a couple of different mana sinks here, so we can hang on to this. Cavern naming Bird is just awful, but Primal Command won't allow us to actually cast the Birds of Paradise. If our opponent bolts our bird, we can go get our Lord or a Smoke Braider so that we can actually cast our spells. But I think that depends on what opponent's doing. They're currently at 6 cards. Try and decide if this is a keepable hand. We are running a solid number of lands. I believe it's 20. Let's actually just take a look. Yeah, we have 20 lands as well as 6 mana dorks, so we have a couple of different places for this to go. But I'm actually starting to think opponent had to have stepped away because you're not tanking on 6 cards this long. Hopefully they don't interact with us. Let's do bird. Alright, bird. Go do bird things. I know we don't have a ton of viewership, but if I was opponent and they knew who I was, it's very possible we're playing bird tribal. That is something definitely in the realm of possibilities. Spell bomb. So looks like taxes or Abzan. Ooh, and we actually top deck a Green Source. So let's play our Primal Beyond. Reveal Risen Reef. Then we're going to go blue, colorless, green, cast our Risen Reef. And then hopefully hit a land. Thunderkin Awakener. Alright, well, your go, opponent. We have as good of a start as I could hope for. If opponent paths our creature, we still get our land for Collected Company. If they don't, then if they just get to kill it, we can Thunderkin to bring it back. Honestly, all these are fine spots. Multani is pretty easy to reanimate, but it's a little hard to get into our yard. Alright, well, Tide Hollow gets to take our collected company. Also see what's going on. Honestly, not a very stock hand you'd expect to see out of Modern. Bye, Coco. I hardly knew you. Flamekin Harbinger's likely actually just going to go get us another Risen Reef at this point. I could see an argument for Smoke Braider and trying to get out Multani, but Multani would only be a 3/3 at the current moment. That works too. So we are actually going to Risen Reef first, just that we get multiple triggers. I don't have any incentive to currently run out the Awakener yet. Ooh, and we get our Lord to reduce costs. That's fine. There's a Skelemental. Then this is actually looking a little bit more like Pox, but they wouldn't run Sculler. This is probably just a white-black taxes list. I could see Eldrazi Displacer being in the list somewhere. We're just going to go for Stomping Grounds. I can't imagine an opponent actually has a Blood Moon, and that would be the thing I'm primarily concerned about. Putting the Risen Reefs on the stack first so I can draw the card that I draw with Flamekin Harbinger. And that's going to be a... I'm actually not sure. Because of the way I stacked it, this card's going to be in my hand as opposed to on top of my deck. So I think I'm going to go for an Unsettled Mariner because opponent has to actually answer that. And we just have a ton of cards. So hard for opponent to outvalue us here. If they're just on the discard a card per turn plan, this will not end well for them. I would love to find some additional lands, though. Risen Reef, your entire point is to make landfall happen. You want to help a brother out? Or are you mad that they took our Coco? Because I'm a little mad they took our Coco, too. In all honesty, though, I probably still would have cast the Risen Reef after drawing it. It's just such high value, and if our opponent wraths us here, we're just ahead so many cards. Then we get to actually Vesperlark back the Risen Reef, or even just Awakener it. Yeah, Awakener's only until end step. Vesperlark's permanent, so if we untap, we just get a Baronet, and then Awakener. Unsettled Mariner makes the discard horribly inefficient. Snihel Spellbomb will make Wrath of God a little bit more awkward, though, because we won't be able to reanimate. And I'm assuming opponent just has to be double queued at this point. Please be a Liliana of the Vel. I want to slam Multani next turn for 2 mana. I believe that's the dream. You've got to have dreams when you're registering fun cards. Alright, well, this kind of looks like a Bantu's Last Reckoning. This isn't snow covered, so it's not Dead of Night. I'll just block with the Harbinger. I really don't care about it, and odds are I'll be bringing it back next turn anyway for this Awakener. Kind of an odd attack. I mean, I guess they would have either gotten in for 2 or possibly killed a Risen Reef. 6 cards in hand. I really don't care about getting my Coco back, though. Alright, opponent. What's the plan? What's the objective here? Where are we headed? 4 cards in hand. I could see a Liliana of the Vel out of them. Oh, they're just passing. So maybe an Anguished Unmaking? This Bird Cavern makes me a very, very sad panda. Alright, Banneret's going to reduce the cost of all of our elementals by generic colorless 1. So it doesn't actually affect these 2 guys, but Here comes removal for the Risen Reef. At least that's what I'm expecting. Opponent might have Mana Tithe. Okay, maybe Kolaghan's Command then. So it's looking like Mardu value taxes. Maybe just Mardu taxes. What's the plan, friend? Fatal Push on Risen Reef. Alright, well, that's going to get Vesperlark now. And we found another one. Oh, I love this deck. Evoking Vesperlark is just so powerful. Alright, let's get our Risen Reef back. Yay, we found another cavern. The lands are finally coming. Even if I paid life, it enter tapped because of the wording on the card, then I want to keep this Risen Reef in case there's a Wrath coming my way next turn. But I can't Unsettled Mariner with my current mana. I can Thunderkin Awakener, and that'd bring back Vesperlark and the Harbinger. So that seems fine. That means that this can enter tapped, although I'm realizing that's kind of a misplay because I'm going to see 2 fresh cards from this attack. Alright, Birds goes to hand. Another Thunderkin Awakener means I can reanimate if there is a board clear coming my way. Alright, and that popped the Nihil Spellbomb for a Vesperlark. Perfectly acceptable by my standards. Alright, then we get a poke opponent for a bit. And see if they've got the Wrath of God. I don't know, given her current hand, I could also see just blocking with the Thunderkin Awakener since they popped it before the trigger. But we get a just Horde of Nations, hit them for 5. We can Lightning Skelemental, make them discard cards, actually see what's going on in their hand. That seems pretty appealing. Our ability to rebuild if they do happen to answer our board is pretty insane at the moment. I really wanted to build a mill version of this deck. There's a green card that's equal to the size of the number of elementals in your graveyard, but between all the graveyard hate and the fact that Star actually is its power and toughness in the yard, so I can't reanimate it with Thunderkin or Vesperlark, it just didn't work the way I wanted it to. This could be a Planeswalker. I'm kind of expecting Nahiri. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because the Tide Hollowskeller is the older version of this build. Wrath of God feels like a possibility. Fish was not really on my radar. Oh, and there's an Omnath. So I can Omnath and actually destroy the Gurmag Angler. But opponent has 3 cards in hand. I'm a little more curious to see what they're working with here. So let's go ahead and just Lightning Skelemental. And I mistapped somewhere horribly along the way. So you need to be red, which means I'm not using birds yet. Lightning Skelemental. We get a draw 2. Ooh. Wooded Foothills, happy to see lands. Nobles, meh. Actually, I think I'm at a point if I just attack and then Omnath hit them. So if I hit them for 5, I think I just kill them. Do I need to do the math? Oh, I can't cast Omnath with my current mana. Yes, I can, because it costs less. Let's do that. Blue for Friendly Neighborhood Omnath. So I want Omnath to resolve last, so it's going to enter first to the stack. Risen Reef can potentially find me lands for +1/+1 counters. Wow, that's painful. Alright, well, opponent goes to 4, and I get lethal on. There could be some value to just hitting an opponent with Skelemental and making them discard so I can see more cards. But this looks like... I just want to say Mardu Pyromancer, but it doesn't seem right. We should be able to win this matchup, though. We're going to grind pretty hard. Sulfur Elemental, because they're likely going to be on Lingering Souls, plus it's an elemental that we can tutor and hit off of Coco, so that's just winning multiple different ways. Fulminator could actually be a little cute for destroying their lands, but I really don't think that matters. I could see opponent bringing in Rest in Peace. I'm probably going to bring in one Wismare just so I can actually deal with Rest in Peace. They did show us a... Sorry, not Rest in Peace. They showed us Nihil Spellbomb. Angut Chewer's not good enough for that. Tunnel Angus is in here just as a hilarious fun of for Valakut, because I've seen a couple of Valakut lists lately. Surgical Extraction is better versus combo decks. I don't really want to use this as a value card. We're going to win the value front in this matchup. So I can see probably trimming some of our graveyard cards just because they are going to try to fight our graveyard. Leyline of the Void's actually going to be a consideration. Yeah, Wismares, you're coming in. I want to see Wismares. Vesper Larch do reanimate Wismares, but we have to answer the Leyline. Then that probably means that, I don't know, Lightning Skelemental isn't nearly as good since they can discard. I still want one as a tutor target for my Flamekin Harbinger to go grab. And Unsettled Mariner is going to be good as a tutor target. This is probably just taking me off of one of my Multanis because Graveyard's going to be shut down. Maybe both Multanis, keep a Vesper Lark. That seems fair. I think Sulfur Elemental is going to be one of our better cards in this matchup. Just because Lingering Souls is going to be a card hard for us to deal with. This is slow, but it has all of our colors, as well as a sideboard hate card. We're on the draw. I think I could do a little bit better. As much as I like curving Sulfur Elemental into Collected Company, opponent should have discard, actually. Yeah, with discard, I'll hang on to this. Just because I want to keep the quantity of cards in my hand high. Fully expecting discard. Oh, is this just Mardu Shadow? Does Mardu Shadow actually run the artifact guy? I might be a little out of my element on this one. I know Mardu Shadow's kind of made a little bit of a resurgence. Yes, it is Mardu Shadow. They are running 4 Tide Hollow Scullers. Window's getting away from me. Alright. And that is a Birds of Paradise. Alright, because it's Mardu, I could potentially see... Let's actually take a look at this list. Yeah, no Blood Moons because they want to be able to pay life. So let's... Whatever. Forest is fine. Birds of Paradise. Opponent's going to have Fatal Push or Lightning Bolt for it at their end step. Just because of how their deck works. And then I'm 100% cashing in Vesper Lark for Birds of Paradise for turn 3 Coco. No. Okay, so Collective Brutality is bad for me here. And we are currently up a game versus Mardu Shadow. All right, you get my Coco. But I must warn you, I have a Sulfur Elemental. I can make that a 3/1. Well, opponent, it's not like you have a ton of options. You do get to ponder the existence of the Sulfur Elemental because you are clearly Mardu Shadow and therefore you have no Lingering Souls. I was expecting a Lingering Souls matchup with Stoneforge Mystic. So we're going to board a little differently now that I've actually pieced together that they are trying to pay life. Yay, it's our turn. At this moment, I'm thinking I kind of just want to use my Vesper Lark. Its triggers when it dies. And Sulfur Elemental doesn't have nearly the value I was expecting it to have, so let's just work on that plan. I'm willing to take a hit here from a Tide Hollow Sculler, or I can trade for Coco. Honestly, either are fine. Sulfur Elemental is going to kill Vesper Lark anyway, so I'm likely going to accept this trade if opponent offers it. Teamer Battle Rage is apparently a 2 of in their deck, so I'm not going to get blown out by the Tide Hollow Sculler, but my time is getting a little lower. Also, mildly surprised they didn't take these out. We have 4 collected companies, and that's about it. I guess Ingot Chewer is okay to kill these. I'm not a fan of that, though. Wait, non-land. My bad, opponent. You are allowed to tank on that decision. Alright, so they did not attack here, which means they don't have discard for my collected company. That is completely worth noting. And I'm actually just going to sit on defense, because chipping them below 13 means they can cast Death Shadows in hand. Casting this Noble Hierarch notably does make it so that I can't cast the collected company if opponent attacks with it. The cheesiness of attacking with Vesper Lark, making it a 3-2 from Exalted, and then Sulfur Elementaling to make it a 4-1. That'd be awesome if we stole a game like that. But we have a couple of really good draws coming our way. We can even cast Horde Nations if we top deck it. That's an impressive position to be in. Are you going to Tide Hollow 3 us? Because that is heroic. Opponent actually did not take a shock from the Bloodstained Mire, which means they likely don't have a Death Shadow in hand. This looks like a Gurmag Angler. Okay. You got it, friend. Alright, well, I really need to top deck something here because I am not in a fantastic position. Yep, you got it. We don't really have any targeted removal either. Omnath is the only thing that we have that can target something, and he's only going to ping for 1 at the moment. I need to get... Alright, well, not a lot of fun colors to get here. I guess it's just a stomping ground. That's a collected company. As with most instances, you want to cast collected company when it is the best option for you. I can't imagine opponent has anything with split second that can take it from me, so going to try to ambush their Tide Hollow Scullers or fog their discard spell. Although if we hit a Risen Reef, we actually might not fog discard just because of the triggers. Opponent not having Stubborn Denial is actually really good for us. They gotta go tutor their Death Shadow. Yep. Now, they're supposed to sack the Ranger Captain before they attack, so I can't Coco in combat. We're trying to figure out the odds of me actually having something here. That's awesome. All right. I'd rather block with Noble Hierarch than Birds of Paradise. I don't think it's going to matter, but okay. Smoke Braider and Vesper Lark won't get anything back, but I can block and get my other Cocoa back. Ooh, no, actually, oh, I can't cast the Sulfur Elemental. I could get really close to killing both of them. So let's block that guy. And do you actually have discard opponent? Apparently not. Well, knowing their Death Shadow means I'm not going to get board cleared anytime soon, so may as well run out our stuff. Collected Company is going to come out in response to the Ranger Captain sack or to discard or combat in all actuality. I think we even bordered out one of our Vesper Larks, so there's only one left in the deck. All right. Collected Company. Lightning Skelemental and Unsettled Mariner. Alright, well, Unsettled Mariner can at least make math a little bit more complicated, and the Thunderkin Awakener can actually jump block / stick around. Reanimating Vesper Lark for a turn is kind of okay. I don't have anything I want to get quite yet, but it means I get a block for free. Counter to the trigger unless you pay one opponent. So opponent has a Death Shadow in hand, a redraw. Battle Rage can't really kill me out of nowhere. And I have a lot of mana. That's like the only thing really worth mentioning here is I have a lot of mana. Attacking with that Lightning Skelemental would have been sweet. It might have been correct to just do Thunderkin and Lightning Skelemental. Opponent wouldn't be able to attack. We'd sack it, and then we can swing back in with the Lightning Skelemental. But then that puts opponent within Death Shadow range. And they can technically cast Death Shadow this turn by just paying a life with the Silent Clearing. Yep. Alright, well, Range to Die is definitely coming up. Opponent just needs to find a way to pay some life and to have a Teamer Battle Rage. Sure, I will trade at this point because the Unsettled Mariner opponent has more than enough mana. Plus I get to bring back the Smoke Braider. Them stopping me from casting one of my other two Collected Companies actually feels relevant. And that is just a stock mountain. Alright, well, Thunderkin Awakener gets to go in and eat it. Nope. Cancel. I want to put... Oh, that's not going to work. I have never resolved Exalted on Thunderkin Awakener. I would hope that I could make it a 2x, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we get to... Reanimate the Vesper Lark. Grow the Death Shadow for my opponent because I'm just a nice dude like that. Then Vesperlark gets to die. We're going to bring in Smoke Breeder as an additional blocker. And be very dead to Temur Battle Rage. At the moment, opponent can make it a 6/6, which means I need to throw 3 power in front of it to not be dead to Temur Battle Rage, but you're pretty much just always dead to Temur Battle Rage. Alright, so if they happen to have a Bolt and a Temur Battle Rage, it's going to be 4, 6, 9 damage. I am going to assign blocks like this and just assume I'm dead. I can throw 3 power in front of this and 1 power in front of this, but we're still super dead at Rage. If opponent doesn't have us dead on table and we top deck Omnath, we're fine. If we top deck Horde of Nations, we're fine. Jeez, if we top deck Horde of Nations, we can pretty much activate it too. Alright, well, dead to Battle Rage. That was a little unfortunate, just the way that our mana worked out, but Sulfur Elemental gets to come out because they're not actually on Lingering Souls. Multani having Trample is actually pretty relevant, so I'm considering bringing this back in. They also didn't show us Leyline. It looks like Leyline is the preferred answer for Death Shadow at the moment, so we're going to bring in the third Wismare. Just because we have... maybe just trim Vesperlark for the Wismare. Fulminator Mage actually is significantly better at this point. I don't think he's worth bringing in given our current situation, but it is a consideration. Lightning Skelemental can win out of nowhere if they try to get their life total low, so I'm going to bring the other one in, and that can be a trim for, I don't know, let's just say, I like being able to tutor anything that's relevant at the moment. Is it just Yarok? The 3/5 Death Touch Lifelink doesn't feel very relevant, especially at 5 mana. He's just going to get discarded before we can play him. We can run like that. This actually does work versus fetch lands, though, which is super cute. I just want to slam it against Valakut and laugh. Ingot Chewer for the artifact dude could also be a conversation. I really like the Vigilance Haste, or sorry, the Trample Haste off of this guy. Omnath can just one-shot them out of nowhere. Morophons might be the weakest, but I want to play my deck. When you register this configuration of 5-color elementals, you just want to play your deck, and this lets us reduce the cost of everything. Like, the only thing in our deck that actually costs mana is Multani will cost some mana, but hopefully we're cheesing him into play anyway, and then Lightning Skelemental will cost red if we happen to get these two together. And that feels like winning. You don't have to do amazing. It just has to feel like you're winning. Our opponent is taking their dear sweet time, though. I mean, granted, we're not a stock deck, but they have a pretty linear game plan of slam a Death Shadow and kill you quickly. Their deck is about as close as it gets to tempo. We would love to play first. This is a Harbinger into nothing. We've got to do better than that. We at least need lands. And this has lands. We even have a removal. Vesperlark is going to be able to rebuy our Risen Reef. Sure, we can keep this. And am I really tucking the birds? Cavern 1 on birds, 2 caverns on elementals. Wismare can take care of Leyline. Risen Reef is our value. I think that means we're tucking Vesperlark. Oh, that feels awful. I want birds on 1, though. Mana base is showing slightly awkward. There's a reason we're only running 2 Primal Beyonds, and it is essentially this exact setup. Primal Beyond is essentially a free 5-color land for our deck, but Cavern can name birds as well as being can't be countered. Still no ley line from them, though. Apparently they don't think our graveyard recursion is strong enough to warrant caring about. Targeting themselves. So they have a fetch land. They're determining the value of the card on top of their deck. Silent clearing means they like it. And Thoughtseize takes our Risen Reef. Well, hindsight says we should have tucked the Wisp-Mare, not the Vesperlark. Well, one Vesperlark's on the bottom, and we have two in the deck still. They get to draw the card they care about. We get a Harbinger. All right, well, Harbinger is good enough for me to go tutor something. And it's probably going to be Risen Reef. So I can get a Vesperlark and bring back the other one and keep a Vesperlark in the yard. That's probably not good enough. The Lightning Skelemental can come down next turn. So like I'm going to make my land drop for this turn, land drop for that turn, but that lets them cast Death Shadow. Yeah, whatever. We're just going to do Risen Reef. Elemental. Go ahead, opponent. I have a Cavern with Bird on it. And a Harbinger. Your go. If opponent doesn't leave up removal, never mind. I was going to say I'll cast my Risen Reef and then evoke this just to get the trigger out of the way, but the whole take your Wisp-Mare feels like a weird play from opponent given they know exactly what's in our hand, but we had to mulligan to a weaker hand and they had discard, so what can I say? Collected Company is a good draw. That requires my bird to stay alive. And Harbinger's going to block. Probably not. Opponent does not know the card in my hand. They do know it's a non-land, though. If they have a Thoughtseize, they can cast it. If they have an Inquisition, which they shouldn't. At least I don't think they should. They want to pay life? No, they have roughly 2 Inquisitions. Sad Panda, 2 Risen Reefs down. Alright, well that was their turn, so I'm going to take 2 like a champ. Your bear's annoying, but that's about all he is. Not escalating that collective brutality. Either they figured out that our deck doesn't have very many instants or sorceries in it, or yeah, I honestly don't know about that. Alright, well, not attacking. I don't want to get him below 13. I don't have much pressure. Need this Coco to do good things. Death Shadow can come out now. Death Shadow can really come out now. Do you have a Death Shadow to come out and play? I swear he's done his homework. Alright, well, opponents gotta know that I have a Collected Company coming by me cracking this fetch land. I can still pay for it with the Birds of Paradise if they think they have shenanigans. But Basic Force should be able to get me there. And I found a Risen Reef and tucked a couple of my Fun-ofs. Sounds about right. Okay, and we have a Birds of Paradise coming. Alright, well, I will take my 2. Opponent still hasn't shown us red yet this game. They're 14 cards in. There's Shadow. Alright, well, we don't really have any tempo plays to make. I actually think I'm main phasing this. because I want to try to draw something valuable, which I didn't. We get to hit the Smoke Braider and the Flamekin Harbinger. It's going to be 2 triggers. And I want a Harbinger last. I learned that last time. With discard, you Harbinger last. Land comes into play, can't pay for it. Land comes into play, can't pay for it. We will go tutor up a... I assume it has to be Omnath. How many elementals do I actually have at the moment? I have 4. So Omnath can shoot for 5 versus Horde of Nations actually attacking for 5 and being able to reanimate my Risen Reefs in the future. Or just cast Multani and have him be a 6/6. Doesn't seem good enough. Skelemental can hit for 6. I think opponent's going to kill me here, so I think my choice isn't that relevant, but I'm going to tell them that if they want to try to kill me here, they can't go very low in life, so it needs to succeed. Ranger Captain. Alright, so not lethal this turn. Opponent finds another Death Shadow. So Omnath shooting for 5 means I'm probably actually just going to kill his current Death Shadow. And this Birds of Paradise is doing me no favors. So without Trample, green gain 5 life. I think that's playable. It's like really close to playable. Feed the Clansaw play for a little while. Let's look at the exact verbiage. So when it enters, it deals damage equal to the number of elementals you control. Whenever a land enters, you get a +1/+1 counter on target elemental. And if I controlled 2 more lands, I could draw a card. So let's do this. I'm going to get red and blue and the bird. I would like to potentially find my land first, so let's kill Death Shadow. Opponent could potentially have a Street Wraith. They didn't. They had already drained that. Then I can Coco now, which actually feels pretty good. I'm shuffling some of the cards I put to the bottom with Coco back into the deck, but that's fine. My life total likely doesn't matter at this point, so let's go ahead and just get blue. We're going to put a 1/1 counter on Harbingers that can actually block. Then Collected Company. Okay, I actually probably should have Collected Companied in response to that trigger, because if I hit 2 elementals and put 2 elementals into play. Oh, come on. Be cool. Colorless, colorless, green, green. Collected Company. Thunderkin Awakener, Thunderkin Awakener. Any order. I will draw the Smoke Braider, quite happy about that. Draw the Noble, honestly don't care much about that one. Attacking with Thunderkin can bring back my Risen Reefs. So let's do that. Risen Reef. Risen Reef. Draw the Vesper Lark. Draw the Unsettled Mariner. And opponent's tanking. This might be a concession. Nope, they're still going for it. Cheaper elementals. Land, not paying. We're going to put a 1/1 counter on this guy just because I can. And yeah, opponent's done. There's a lot of cards there. 0 elementals controlled by 13. That's a dirty lie. Get your crap together, MTGO. Put it in a backpack, put it together. All right. Well, we beat a fair deck. Not too surprised by that. They do have a combo kill, but I mean, Mardu Pyromancer is or Mardu Death Shadow is pretty fair. They're just using their life source as their life total as a resource, which is acceptable, but like it can be pretty broken. Look at Phyrexian mana. Birds of Paradise into Thunderkin Awakener into Birds of Paradise. I like this hand. I mean, it's not completely busted, but I like it. Temple Garden makes us look like a more stock deck in the format, so I'm going to lead on that. Razor Verge Thicket, so this looks like Devoted Druid combo. Ooh, Smoke Braider. We play this, they know we're elementals. We play this, they know that we're probably Naya to some extent, but we're probably elementals. Whatever, this is fine. They're going to know what we're doing. I want the ability to cast something expensive off the top, like a Omnath, a Yarok, or a Morophon. So we're just going to do that. Opponent doesn't need to know that we can reanimate something from the yard. Oh, it's a fair deck. Okay. I like fair decks. Sword of Fire and Ice is a good pickup. Flamekin Harbinger. So this is where we get to have some fun. We're going to Flamekin Harbinger, put a Risen Reef on top of our deck, just that we know we actually hit one. Put a Risen Reef up there. Oh my gosh, did I seriously just mistap that badly? Alright, well, we'll have a Coco. I was supposed to tap the Smoke Braider for it, which makes sense. I just didn't think that far ahead. Risk of blowout here is getting pathed. I'm going to float white like I have something really random and then pass. Sometimes you just have to bluff whatever you can potentially bluff. I'm okay with that. Because really what I could be staging here is I want to be able to block my Birds of Paradise if they actually go for the Sword of Fire and Ice. Alright, let's do this correctly this time. So we're going to go blue-green with a uncounterable. They look like they're just Devoted Stoneblade, so it's not like that matters a ton. We can take a look at our Risen Reef. Sure, we get another Elemental. We're going to shock this into play, and then we are just going to pass this time. Alright, well, if you have a Vizier, you have infinite mana. You have a Vizier. So I think what I want to do is Coco now. Wow. So bad. So very bad. Okay, well, opponent has shown us that they don't have interaction for the Thunderkin Awakener, so I'm going to put this into play and this into play. Then any order, Harbinger's going to go last. I'll take another Risen Reef, that's fine. I'll put an Overgrown Tomb into play. And then I'm going to go tutor up Omnath, because it's pretty safe for them to assume that we have it, and it's also targeted removal. So let's grab an Omnath in here. We're protecting that on the top of our deck for whatever reason I could potentially have. And then they need to show us a win condition. And we will concede to a win condition. Okay, that's a win condition. That's not a typical win condition, but that is a win condition. What does that mean for us? They are stone blades, so Ingot Shear is going to become a consideration. Sulfur Elemental actually kills Vizier, which is another reason why it was a good consideration for this deck. It does actually make Stoneforge a 2-1, which is quite bad, but what can you do? We have so Surgical Extraction is decent for combo decks, but we don't have a way to get something into the yard. Surgical is in our sideboard right now because of Urza to take Sword, and that's about it. So we can trim on a couple of other things. I like Lightning Skelemental, just reducing cards in their hand. They're going to try to come at us fast. Unsettled Mariner actually doesn't have much text in this format. It can stop a Sword of Fire and Ice trigger, but that's about it. Then we can trim on our top end. Reanimating something with Horde doesn't matter. We're probably going to win decisively or lose decisively here, just because they are combo. Fulminator can slow them down, but it's not good enough to bring in. This is going to be here because Tron is just an abysmal matchup. Morophon, again, we're probably going to win pretty decisively. I want to keep this in just so that we can fun cast things, but that's likely not good enough, and we have to make room on our top end for Ingot Chewer. So I'm trying to trim things that aren't cocoable. We are running 30 cocoable creatures, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, well, it's close. If we actually had our Unsettled Mariner in this list, it would be 28, I believe we ended up at, which you need about 24 before Coco starts actually showing dividends, so we're well in the realm of actually getting results. Trims. Maybe Vesper Lark, just because it's slightly on the slow end, which means we can trim a Smoke Braider since we took a lot of our multicolored expensive things out. Whatevs. Alright, hopefully Devoted Blade will go a little bit smoother than that. This hand is far too slow. This hand is mediocre at best, but I don't want to go much slower. Fetch Land is actually just one more life than Stomping Grounds in this deck. It doesn't have much utility, so back you go. Birds of Paradise. Then we get to drop out our Lord and potentially blow up an artifact. Not that relevant yet. There's a Giver. We don't really have much target removal, so that's fine. Yeah, that comes in tapped. We will cast this guy. And then next turn we can actually just hardcast an Ingot Chewer. That mana ramp, though. We didn't even have Risen Reef. Lightning Greaves. Okay, so this is where we could potentially die. Yep, you got it. We take one. Cavern is always nice, despite the fact they're not on counter spells, so let's go ahead and do this with red. One more. Ingot Chewer. Cast. Get ourselves a 3/3 destroy target shroud creature. It looks like they're trying to do something a little bit more like our Swole Badger list, but potentially running some competitive build of it. Ingot Chewer blow up Lightning Greaves. Not a standard turn 3 in Modern, but a turn 3 I'm happy with. Alright, another Giver means attacking is going to be difficult. Luckily, a lot of our threats have Trample. This is when targeted removal would probably be nice. I was so close to putting bolts in the deck, but it just makes the Coco so much worse when you're trying to play with interactive spells. I get to swing in. Opponent gets to block with this Giver, tap it. That doesn't really do anything overly productive for me, so let's just Smoke Braider. Oh yeah, they're cheap now. And I'm not going to run out this other Ingot Chewer. If they actually expose the bow to try to kill like a Risen Reef or the Banneret, then I can get a surprise with the Ingot Chewer and take away a win condition. Alright, go tutor target creature combo piece. It is a Devoted Druid. It's possible I die here. No, we got rid of the Lightning Greaves, so it's significantly less likely, but might put me on top decking Omnath to remove the Devoted Druid. And even then they have the two Givers. Alright, well, time's running short. Let's do the minimal then. Blue's more relevant here. Actually, no, white is. why it's slightly more relevant. Alright, well, I'm going to cast Multani just because I want to say I cast Multani. And I guess we'll see what opponent's doing. It is correct to actually go uncounterable. Multani, the 4/4. Lavinia is like such a soft counter for this deck. Oh, he's a 5/5 because it counts the yard. I'm proud of you, Multani. You're learning from mistakes. Attacking doesn't do anything with the givers. Show me a payoff. Payoff, please and thank you. Shalai. Shalai is a payoff. That's infinite creature size. Alright, well, it looked like a fair deck, but it was actually a combo deck. So we do take the loss there. Ooh, and we already found our next match. I'll just update the record. We moved to 1-1. A little bit more interaction could be fun, but... okay, this is the bare minimum to make elementals work in Modern. I'm going to hang on to this. We only have 20 lands, and this is getting 5 of them out of the way. In fact, I'm going to fetch. If this is burn, boo on me. But if I fetch here, that's 6 of 20 lands out of the way in the top 7. So Stomping Grounds is more appropriate, although Breeding Pool would have cast things better, but Breeding Pool's in hand. Opponent, don't show me Mountain Rift Bolt. Just don't do it. Be cool. Or it's Infect. It's Merfolk. Okay. Merfolk thought they were going to be able to do something when they had all the Force of Negations, but we have Caverns, which is why counterspells don't really work in the first place. I will happily take a Risen Reef counter and see if they're splashing red for Bolt. That used to be a thing way back in like Splinter Twin days. It's not very common anymore. So ripping off the top, I want a Horde of Nations. If I can do the rounds and say I cast Horde of Nations, Multani, Omnath, and Yarok tonight, I'd be very happy. Alright, Silvergill revealing Reejerey. Reejerey can be a problem for blocking. Kamana Speaker grows, which is going to make blocking a little difficult. Thunderkin Awakener into Harbinger's probably what I'm hoping for. Rips. So many rips. Alright, well, we are going to continue our uncounterable stuff because that's what's keeping my hopes and dreams alive. Okay, Coco is an actual card. Attacking with Thunderkin, I don't want to trade with the Silvergill Adept. Yes, this will eventually get Island Walk, but at the moment, I don't care enough. Thunderkin Awakener rebuying Risen Reef or something for a turn could actually swing the tide of this game. Kind of glad I couldn't get that Breeding Pool, all things considered. There's the Lord. We are going to start taking some real damage here, though. I really want to block with this Noble. We have enough mana, and these might become unblockable in the near future, so... Noble, I respect your sacrifice. Thank you for showing up for work today. Sorry it had to be you. Let's go ahead and just grab an Overgrown Tomb for colors. Wow, the pain here. Alright, I'm going to go get my basic forest more than likely. If they have Force of Negation, they can pay for it anyway. They know we have the Coco. Whatever. I'm going to make it cost them 2 cards instead of 1. If they have the counterspell. They don't have it. Okay. Lord, Skelemental, any order. 2 triggers. Risen Reef, you are a very good magic card. Another Risen Reef is a pretty nice sight. And a Mountain's okay. Only having 1 mana, I don't really have anything else to contribute here, so Lightning Skelemental gets to get it in. And then that means thunderkin Awakener is attacking next turn with absolutely horrible cards in hand. Bright Hearth is going to be blocking just to gain 3 life. I almost want opponent to discard lands just so I know their hand isn't just full of gas. Echoing Truth and Mutavault. Okay. That's kind of fine. That gives me hope that their hand is not amazing. If they attack with the Reejerey, I actually might throw Thunderkin Awakener and the Bright Hearth in front of it. Also, keeping either of those could be pretty good. Although, Reejerey makes blocking hard. Reejerey makes blocking really hard. Yep. So, I'm currently blocking with Thunderkin Awakener just to stay alive this turn. Looking at 11 damage. Trickster taps me down and I die. Well done, Merfolk opponent. Alright, what do we want to do versus Merfolk? Ingot Chewer hitting Aether Vial is not good enough. Fulminator hitting their lands really isn't good enough. Their entire deck plays below 4 mana except for Master of Waves, and even then, Reejerey's like they're only 3-drop. Unless they are running Counter Magic. I think we're just running it back and just trying to be a little faster. Because we have a lot of synergy, and they were just able to turn their stuff sideways faster than us because we had so many lands. Alright. Harbinger into Risen Reef. Well, I mean, this is technically playable, but I can't actually cast my Lightning Skelemental. I would prefer a Mana Dork. Collected Company is one of our weaker cards just because it can be countered with Force of Negation. Thunderkin Awakener attacking for 1 with no recursion, super bad though. I'm going to look for a better hand. I feel like that's about the only way we're going to make this happen. And this is not much better. Not at all. Alright, well, Morophon is harder to cast, and if I find a way to discard Multani, that's fine. Thunderkin Awakener on 2 versus Harbinger probably means I should have kept my 7, but that's hindsight. Alright, we're going to go get a Stomping Ground tapped. And opponent doesn't have an island yet, so I do get a free beat in. It's not a good beat, but it is a free beat. With that mountain in hand, likely I actually should have gotten Temple Garden, but what can you do? Most of our deck is green and red. Cavern fixes a lot of problems anyway. Could be possible that I was supposed to actually just chump block with the Thunderkin Awakener, then I could Vesper Lark it back in, but that doesn't seem right. Alright, the sideboard tech from 2015 making a heroic appearance. Permanent Frost on my Thunderkin Awakener. Alright, I kind of just want a land. It's not a land. That's pretty close to Sadness Incarnate. Alright, well, Vesperlark gets to block fairly profitably unless they have a Lord. Tidebinder is the tempo play, though, which means if they had a Lord, they'd still play that first. Odds of discarding Multani going down significantly as we actually play cards. Not great as a 0/0. It was a lot better in the mill version of the deck I was brewing, but at the moment he's showing himself to be slightly awkward at 6 mana. There's the Lord. So I'm going to keep Vesperlark in case they don't have a second Lord, then Vesperlark can keep the other Lord at bay. And if we get a land, we don't. I was going to say if we get a land, I'm going to push them for the 2-for-1 if they are holding the Force of Negation. But at the moment, it's looking like I'm going to chump with Vesperlark and Coco, hoping to find... I don't even know what. I tried to keep elementals on the sideboard for funsies. Yeah, that's painful. Veil of Summer would have been great. That feels like a greedy Echoing Truth. Like, I understand that they're ahead, but I guess they know that Coco is about the only thing that can buy them sometime. Multani doing some work for us. Okay, apparently no Force of Negation. Harbinger isn't really going to buy us anything here. I can discard their hand, but we're just dead on table, so GG's, opponent. You got it. Better tribe, tempoed it out. Some of our fun options are coming back to bite us, but we've had some pretty... At least that first game was pretty good versus Mardu. Hopefully we'll put up something a little bit better in the future. So our sideboard is Fulminator Mages for the big mana decks. We do have the fun of I'm blanking on his name and I can't really read it there. The Tunnelingus for Valakut in case it ever comes up. But we have Sulfur Elementals for the mono white decks. Surgical was about the only thing that I tossed in because we needed an answer for Urza and Get Chewer just wasn't going to be good enough. This hand is delicious. This hand is so delicious. And lacking some of those sideboard cards like Veil of Summer is quite bad for us. Okay, white means it's likely not Ponza. I feel like I know what that deck is, but I'm blanking on it at the moment. Probably Valakut? Not Valakut. Whatever. If this is any kind of land destruction, I'm just going to go get another Smoke Braider. Or I get the Lord. The mana reduction Lord's looking really tempting here. But if I get a Smoke Braider, then I can just free cast thing. Let's just get the Lord. We have a Smoke Braider already. I want to say that this is the Enchantress build, but I don't think they actually try to do anything on white. I've done some stupid stuff on white. I don't think that there's a known deck that tries to do white, though. Maybe Tooth and Nail might be splashing white. I ended up going green-blue just because I try to do stupid things, but I want to say that green-red is actually the real Tooth and Nail build. A lot of basics, though. Oh, this is the... this is either the new Proliferate deck or Doubling Season Tameo. This is Super Friends or Saheeli. Any of the above are acceptable. Seeing the amount of white, though, it's probably not Saheeli. Alright, well, I'm going to get my basic Forest here, just on the off chance that they do Blood Moon us, since I've seen so many basics. Then I'm actually going to run out Smoke Braider first. Next turn, I can cast the Banneret, and then actually free cast some of our other spells, and Vesperlark can rebuy Smoke Braider, which feels relevant. Oh, it's Devoted Blade again? I guess this could also be Glittering Wish. Although Glittering Wish would have actually done very different mana base. There's likely some build of Devoted Druid, maybe with Super Friends on the top end instead of Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, there's a Devoted Druid. I could also see Lightning Skelemental just try to empty their hand of threats. If they make their land drop in Devoted Druid, that's going to leave them with 4 cards in hand. They could technically have a path for one of my creatures. Why am I seeing so much Devoted Druid? We didn't stack enough creature removal for this matchup to be played over and over and over again. Give me fair decks that try to value. I want to play Jund. Alright, this might just be a Devoted Druid then. And leaving a green up means they likely don't have anything else going on. Maybe a mana dork. Utopia Sprawl's free, so yeah, they didn't have anything else going on. Lightning Skelemental attacking in can still leave them with a Vizier and a win condition. But I'm likely going to have to do that, so I have 5 mana here. Horde of Nations isn't going to cut it. I know Lightning Skelemental needs to come down, which means I'm probably just on the mana dork. Or the Lord. Alright, well, let's get this done. Because I have the Horde of Nations, I'm just going to go for the Overgrown Tomb here. It's most colors, and I can actually pay black for it here. This can be red, red. Lightning Skelemental. Does the clock change at all if I awaken or attack in for 7? They just free block it. So I'll get 1 more damage in. 7. No, I just need to hit for 6. They're not going to block the Skelemental because they want their Devoted Druid to try to combo me off. I mean, this is Green Ponder, but I'd expect some number of Super Friends out of them. Yep, they don't even want to block the Harbinger. Makes sense. The 1 point of damage likely doesn't matter if they're about to combo me. This does mean, though, that they either have a Vizier in hand or a win condition, not both. And then the Thunderkin Awakener is going to make it so that I'm attacking them and making them discard their win condition if they have it. So still kind of in an okay spot. Not excited about it, but an okay spot. So I can Lord here, but only having 5 mana means I actually have to Thunderkin Awakener. If I don't top deck a land, I can Horde of Nations for lethal next turn. They discarded a Vizier, so they might have Plunge in hand. Oh well, let's do this so I can Horde of Nations and Lightning Skelemental next turn. Don't kill us, opponent. I want to cast Horde of Nations. Blue might mean it's a Healy Druid. Never thought about combining the 2 shells, but Tooth and Nail mana. You have 7. This could be an Elishnorn. Karn for Ensnaring Bridge. Alright, that's technically a thing. I don't have a great answer for it now, but and then they can just Mycosynth Lattice me next turn. I hate this card so much. None of this can attack. They do currently have 6 mana to Mycosynth Lattice me. I can activate the Horde of Nations while I'm discarding cards to hand size, so I'm actually going to do that. I need white and blue. Playing Horde of Nations so I can discard to hand size and cast Omnath is my only win condition here. That is so bad. If opponent ever attacks, I can block with Harbinger and actually stack my deck to get there, though. Risen Reef would make this so much faster. Opponent's likely going to find a win condition before I get there. Yep. The horrible prisoness known as Karn Mycosynth Lattice Lock. Fun interactive magic. I can still technically win this, so I'm going to make it so the opponent actually has to kill me. Why? Alright, well, in 4 turns I get to play it. And opponent's actually going to have to empty their hand, otherwise Lightning Skelemental is going to hit them. Shouldn't be hard. They have a lot of mana. Yeah, that's actually not going to work because they get to destroy our lands. Ah, fun. Alright, well, Ingot Chewer comes in. Fulminator probably should be coming in. I like Wismere for Arbor Elf just because that's going to be their primary game plan. Sulfur Elemental kills Vizier. And that is a lot of cards. That is a lot of cards. Alright, Multani can come out. He's bad under a bridge. Yarok is expensive, but I haven't cast him yet, and we play fun cards, so we're going to keep that. Umnoth is our only removal, as well as a tutor target. Unsettled Mariner's not going to be good enough here. They're trying to Goldfish as fast as possible, and we're trying to do fun mid-rangey stuff outside of Goldfish. I can technically cast this entire deck on turn 3, but it's not common. Lord makes it so that will be faster. Vesper Lark is slow, and opponent's not going to have a lot of removal, so it's probably just going to be trim Vesper Larks and maybe a Risen Reef is how we get ahead. Smoke Braider? Sure. We'll submit like that. This gets to be a Harbinger into... Wow. This is actually just going to be Risen Reef on 2 Cocoa. It's good enough. Then if we need to, we can Harbinger for an Ingot Chewer or a Wismere. It could be possible I'm actually supposed to just Harbinger on 1, so I can Wismere, and then Smoke Breeder on 2, Risen Reef, Voice, or Noble on 3, Cocoa on 4. But they're still going to get 4 mana on turn 2, so let's just Noble. Opponent is currently at 6 cards. This is my Noble. There are a couple of like it, but this one is mine. I'm only running 2 of them, so this is one that I haphazardly threw in front of a Death Shadow a couple of turns ago. Alright, opponent, what did your Oath of Nissa Ponder find you? Core Firewalker. Oddly not as good against us as you would probably hope for it to be. I guess that keeps you alive long enough to Karn, but... Risen Reef. I like to draw cards. I actually like to ramp a little bit better before I draw cards. Opponent currently cannot cast a Core Firewalker, not that it's overly relevant. They apparently do not have a Devoted Druid. Ooh, and we get to do some fun things. Okay, let's actually go tutor a land first, just because I feel like that's going to be relevant. We can get a Stomping Grounds, because we're actually just going to do Harbinger into Harbinger into Harbinger. I want Harbinger to resolve first. Then, or do I just go get Wismere and blow up Oath of Nissa? That actually doesn't do much at the moment. Screw it, we're going to go for Risen Reef before we chain together Harbingers. Blue, green, 1, Risen Reef. All the value. And I didn't leave up red. Oh well. It's not like it actually matters. The I am a little too impatient. I missed 1 point of damage by hitting attack all. That's fun. So I kind of want to keep Lightning Skelemental so I can hit a Karn if they go for it. They're not going to have enough mana to just straight up combo off. But emptying their hand of 2 cards and then being able to Awakener seems pretty relevant. That's fun. Opponent just likes all the taxi cards. Okay, so Horde of Nations, attack Teferi, 2 Risen Reef triggers. I know I'm bad at this game, but I have to attack with the Risen Reef. We're going to go blue. Nope, this needs to be black, and this is going to be blue. Horde of Nations. Opponent thought Teferi was safe at 5 counters. Ingot Chewer is a pretty good backup plan. Birds of Paradise is meh, but 5-year Teferi, 3U. These are terms I'm okay with. I mean, that Teferi was technically gain 5 life, which is not irrelevant, especially when I'm looking at Lightning Skelemental in hand, but we got 2 Risen Reef triggers. If opponent Karns, it just dies. Karn, go get Ensnaring Bridge. I could I can just kill opponent here. So what you got? Core Firewalker doesn't actually block Horde of Nations that well. I'm still going to trample over for 3. And a Devoted Druid. So I haven't actually done the math for my mana, but we're going to kill that Devoted Druid. So let's go ahead and just Harbinger. We'll go tutor up our Omnath for removal. Yes, opponent, you get to gain some life. Honestly, not very relevant. It could be possible I can... No, I'm not going to be able to kill opponent here. So Risen Reef triggers go last. I want to go tutor up Omnath. Where is he? There he is. Oh, look at that. We drew an Omnath. Who would have thought? Ooh, and a Coco? Dak, you're spoiling me. Alright. We get to Omnath. Opponent's going to gain a life. Don't really care. We control 5 elementals, though. So I'm going to let Omnath happen last in case I find elementals, but we're going to go ahead and hit Devoted Druid. We find Morophon, a land, so we get to put a 1/1 counter on, sure, Horde of Nations. It's got Trample. Shoot down Devoted Druid. Then we currently have 1 mana available to us. Well, I mean, we did do a lot. So Birds of Paradise is going to enable the most amount of plays next turn. Horde of Nations gets to get in. We'll trample over for 5. Then with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, I'm going to be able to do a lot. Casting Morophon is part of the dream tonight. Do I just Morophon and Smoke Breeder? That feels like what I'm supposed to do. I mean, technically, if opponent can even lock us out at this point, I can just discard Ingot Chewer and bring it into play off of Horde of Nations. I actually should have probably attacked with a Harbinger next turn so that if they did block the Harbinger, then I could Thunderkin Awakener it back. Postmortem Lunge for mana to Finale for a Devoted Druid. Or whatever it's called. Yeah, that's fine. You're going to get your Vizier, and it sounds like you can combo off here. I'm going to laugh when they go get Karn and Mycosynth Lattice. This is looking like a Walking Ballista, though. Or maybe just another Finale. Show me the win condition, opponent. That's all I need. I don't know, maybe the Somnath could have just been Sulfur Elemental. Opponent, would you just like to show me a Walking Ballista or something akin to it? I assume you have something, otherwise you wouldn't be tapping, but... What was the hotkey for this? Opponent's doing this too slow. Holding W, auto yields mana. Just show me the win condition. Okay, apparently not a Walking Ballista. Yep, you got it, opponent. They're going to go get a Walking Ballista. Yeah, you could have done that at 4 mana. Okay, you got it. Oh, that's painful. That card feels like such a mistake. Really not a fan of that card. Yeah, Horde of Nations being something a little bit stronger could probably have won that game. Having more Lightning Skelementals to empty their hand would obviously be the better play, but whatever, we're here to have fun. I'm just sad I didn't cast Morophon. He was in hand, I would have had the possibility to. I would have only been able to cast one creature off of him at that moment, though. The Morophon first Sliver deck was pretty sweet. Should probably be running that if that's the game plan today. The potential play mistake that actually would have made a difference was when I went to go get Omnath to shoot down the Devoted Druid, I could have just gone and got Sulfur Elemental, and then opponent wouldn't have been able to combo off with the Druid. Postmortem Lunge giving it haste is something that you have to have in the back of your mind. It is technically something happening in the current meta. This is not playable because my mana is not castable. And this is just atrocious. Opponent is keeping their 7 cards, so this might be a quick one. We can keep this, we'll tuck back the Horde of Nations, and I guess the Vesperlark. Hope opponent has no removal because we kept 5. We could have kept the Vesperlark and tried to top deck a land in the top 3, but the way today's been going, we would definitely just top deck at Birds of Paradise on turn 3, so what can you do? Temple Garden. Alright, well, I guess we'll hit for 1. In an ideal world, I would have actually been able to go get a Forest in case this ends up being a Blood Moon deck. Blackcleave Cliffs typically means Jund, and Lightning Bolt looks a lot more like Jund, but Thunderkin Awakener dying means we get Risen Reef, and this actually looks like it's through the breach. So I don't actually want a Lightning Skelemental here because Lightning Skelemental will let them discard in case they're on the Goryo's Vengeance plan. But odds are I'm going to get Emrakul here. And we found our Horde of Nations. Hey buddy, welcome back. Mutavault is an interesting top deck. Okay, Mutavault Pentad Prism. This could potentially be 10 rack. If this is 10 rack, then the Lightning Skelemental is actually the correct play here. So I don't have the double red for it though, which puts me on Coco. I cannot attack because of the Mutavault. So we'll wait for our opponent to try to remove our Risen Reef to Coco. Tormenting Voice discarding Swamp. So Through the Breach is looking significantly more likely. Knight's Whisper makes it looks like the old Gray Shoal brand. But people are playing with cutting the Nourishing Shoal package and just trying to be a value Grizzlebrand deck. If opponent has removal, they try to bait me into it, but with that Pentad Prism. Vesper Lark for the... No, I'm going to go Smoke Braider so I can just cast Horde of Nations because I've got to cast Horde of Nations. It's in the deck. He's cost us a couple of games. I'm going to be casting him. There's a Vesper Lark to evoke for the Thunderkin Awakener and another Coco. All right. These are cards I like. We will be casting Unsettled Mariner first. Are we? Vesper Lark. Let's see what opponent discards. Mutavault is tapped, so Risen Reef can get in. Unsettled Mariner and the other Lightning Skelemental might have been okay. Yeah, they're flooding out pretty hard. That's why we're not dead yet. So let's actually just do this. Unsettled Mariner, if they're going to be on the discard plan, then we can hold up Coco. That actually might have been nice to cast main phase. But what can you do? I wanted to confirm what opponent's on. It definitely looks like Through the Breach, but they haven't shown us anything to actually breach into play. They are currently 2 mana away from Grizzlebrand. He's a 7/7 that costs 8. They do have Ilharg, but I see no Godpig. Any order, then we're going to resolve Risen Reef first, or Harbinger first, and then get Risen Reef. This is going to go get Omnoth, and we're just going to kill our opponent here. I don't want to give them the opportunity to recover. Oh, look at that. We drew an Omnoth. And a Noble Hierarch. Alright, we have 6 mana, which means we can Omnoth and something else. Let's just go ahead and do this. Make Omnoth cheaper. Look at the shenanigans! Opponent, these are my shenanigans. Inspect them, enjoy them. Cavern of Souls on my Friendly Neighborhood Elemental. Then we're going to go red, green, blue, Omnoth. Omnoth, would you care to shoot the opponent in the face for 6? Lightning Bolt on Risen Reef. Okay, a little late for that. Because I shoot you for 5 and now I don't have lethal. So, oh my gosh, that's painful. That is really painful. Alright, well, we can still do this then. Let's go ahead and Vesper Lark evoke. We'll get back the Thunderkin Awakener. Yep, it dies. Then we will attack. Bring in Lightning Skelemental and see if opponent has another Lightning Bolt. Okay, that did it. I'm going to work on the assumption that opponent is through the breach and potentially on Goryo's Vengeance. Knowing that, I am likely bringing in Fulminator Mage just to keep them off their mana. Opponent did show us the Pentad Prism, which is basically what you ramp for a one-shot before you're killing your opponent. So Ingot Chewer could technically come down and interrupt that. I don't know if that's good enough to actually keep it in or not. Multani having reach, he can actually grow big enough to block a lot of what they're doing, but Emrakul will still kill us, so I think he's going to be a trim here. I still haven't actually successfully cast Morophon or Yarick, so he's got to stay in. Horde of Nations being hasty is fine. I don't think he's a good tutor target at the moment, though. I mean, attack for 5, get Omnath, shoot them, whatever. Vesperlark, just in case they are on their ley lines or their own surgicals, and that might be good enough. Wismare, this isn't Legacy, they don't have Animate Dead. Ingot Chewer can't be hit by Coco. Sulfur Elemental won't kill Wild Cantor if they're on Wild Cantor. The only question is, do I want the Surgical Extraction for Goryo's Vengeance? Typically, they would Goryo's in response to the Emrakul trigger, so that can still get hit by Goryo's Vengeance. Ilhard can permanently bring something into play from the yard. Basically, they're a combo deck. I think I need these surgicals. Let's trim on a Vesperlark just because it's expensive and doesn't actually do a ton. And maybe just a Smoke Braider. We took Horde of Nations out. The mana isn't nearly as strict as it could be. If you've noticed, we've been trimming a lot of our Fun-ementals every time that we go to boarding. It's kind of just the nature of doing business. So Flamekin, go get our Lord. We can Risen Reef and start comboing off. I don't like this much. We're going to die really fast if opponent doesn't stumble. Opponent kept their 7, so they could be new to their deck, but you typically don't keep 7 with this very often. If we die, we die. We don't have a lot of interaction. This is kind of playable. Okay, and I was really afraid of discard. They should technically be running a lot of discard. Let's go on Elemental. Flamekin. We can go tutor any of our sideboard cards. I don't think any are relevant at the moment. I maybe should have left one and get Chewer in just so I could go tutor it. So I go get Blighted Hearth, or I just go get Fulminator. I want to be able to Risen Reef on 3 with mana open. Let's take the Lord. I want cheap elementals. Hopefully opponent doesn't kill us here. I'd expect a Tormenting Voice. Or a Night's Whisper. Yeah, Pentad Prism means we could get through the breach next turn. Alright, well, we are going to play cheap elementals. And opponent's going to hit us with a giant flying Mamacrul. But if they're just on Grizzlebrand, we might have a shot here. They could be doing Instep. Alright, well, blue, green. I can still cast my Lord, right? I'm going to have to take a shock to do it. Yeah, that's fine. Opponent shouldn't be pressuring our life total. They'll just kill us or not kill us. Wooded Foothills. That's a fine draw. Let's go get a Stomping Ground. Lord's on the cheap. Come visit my store. Everything's on sale. Elementals cost 2 less. Morophon costs 5. That's almost playable. I don't want to attack with my Lord in case they eat it. I don't mind if Harbinger goes to the yard if they have a Through the Breach or something flash or nasty. If they had removal, they probably would have targeted the Risen Reef here. But potentially getting a chain of elementals with a Risen Reef out is going to make it so that even the Annihilator trigger isn't too bad for us. Well, taking 15 puts us in bolt range, so likely going to die anyway if that happens. Here it comes through the breach. Grizzlebrand. Alright, well, opponent can pay as much life as they want to here. Drawing 14 can be bad, but they shouldn't have... they could be on Simian Spirit Guide. They could technically put in something else. If they have to do it post-combat, though, we might be fine. I did bring in the Surgicals, because Surgicalina through the breach here puts them on only Ilharg. And I think Ilharg does not have haste. Yeah, he has trample. So the odds of dying here are kind of low. I mean, they did just go up to 18 cards in hand. But it is kind of low. If they have another Thoughtseize, it means I can't Coco, which really shuts off some of my options. So Harbinger into Omnath can shoot them for 6. No! My one weakness! Board clear with Exile. And double discard. Alright, well, things aren't looking great at the moment. Opponent, you have successfully picked apart my hand and probably drawn into another attack next turn. Coco? How about a Coco? Slow land, slow mana, slow mana. Card draw. More importantly, life loss. We could technically win out of nowhere. Tormenting Voice is just more card draw and another land. Alright, blue, green, one of anything. There's a Risen Reef, hopefully draws us into a Harbinger. That's a fine card, although it doesn't have a lot of payoff at the moment. If I take a Shock, I'm... Actually, Shock seems fine here. So let's just grab a basic Mountain so I can actually cast my Thunderkin Awakener. We'll take the Shock. Get a redraw. If only, I would be able to reanimate a Lightning Skelemental. Alright, well, Smoke Braider redrawn to Elemental. I have 2 shots minimum at getting a Lightning Skelemental off the top. Of course, opponent can just slam another basic that they capped and through the breach and kill us. I really didn't mind going to 7, which is dead to a Grizzlebrand attack, because they probably have a Lightning Bolt anyway to kill me. Yep, that's it. Gotta be a little bit quicker. Opponent didn't really show us anything. I do think I want one of these as a tutor target if they're on the Pentad Prism plan, which likely means I can just trim a Fulminator. Like, this is mediocre as it is, but yeah, let's actually do that. I think I'd rather have an explosive start than to try to put them off of mana. It is true they beat us because they got enough mana, but if I actually had enough mana to explode before the Anger of the Gods, I would have been fine. Most of our stuff won't survive the Anger. Alright, I mean, the dream would probably be I don't know. We're not going to get anything into their yard fast enough with this surgical extraction, but we can stop future problems. I can't cast the Birds of Paradise, and I don't have anything to bring back with the Thunderkin Awakeners. I do have a surgical extraction, but we're going to have to get hit before that becomes a thing. Yeah, let's look for something a little bit better. This is borderline acceptable. This will go get a Risen Reef, and then I'll play a Lord and at least be able to cast a Risen Reef. I can tuck back one of the Lords just so that... I don't know. Reducing the cost by 2 doesn't actually affect a whole lot in this deck when most of the creatures can get hit by Coco. Alright, let's go get me a Risen Reef. Nothing else I really want. I mean, I can't even Lightning Skelemental next turn, so yeah, let's just go Risen Reef. Then hopefully opponent's looking for a Tormenting Voice, maybe off of Goryo's. Alright, get in there, little Harbinger that could. Then we're going to get our Lord down. And then even ripping a land off the top means we get a Risen Reef and Thunderkin Awakener. Technically cannot F6 because of this surgical extraction, but likely a bolt at the Lord. Yep. Bye, Lord, you tried. I respect your effort. If I whiff on a land, I can awaken her and bring it back. If I hit a land, it's just a Risen Reef. Tormenting Voice, discard Blood Crypt. Vesperlark, permanently get back Lord. Was better than Thunderkin Awakener and have it at second main? Opponent did correctly read the fact that we have no lands going on for us, though. I guess I technically could Surgical the Lightning Bolt, but that feels bad. You don't want to go for value. Like, Surgical is to interrupt a combo. That's the only reason to bring it in. Alright, Mr. Opponent. Apparently nothing. That works for me. Blue and a green. Come down, Risen Reef. Fix our mana. Fix our draw. I mean, Coco's technically a card. I just am multiple turns away from casting it. 1/1 moderate value creatures, get in. I'm resting this game on you. I expect you to do great things for me. So next turn I can Thunderkin Awakener, bring back Vesperlark, get 2 Risen Reef triggers. Honestly, just does not feel good enough. If opponent Mutavaults, that means I can't attack with my Lord or my Risen Reef anymore. Or Anger of the Gods is really bad. Alright, this is our moment. And anytime you cast Surgical, you have to take the one out of the graveyard. So let's blow this dude up, and because memory's not always as good, let's take a Snippy Snip. So opponent has a Braid, Anger of the Gods. They do have the Anger of the Gods in hand, as well as a Goryo's and a Through the Breach. So I'm looking forward to 4 Grizzlebrands, and that's about it. Of note, though, I do not want to commit very hard into this Anger of the Gods, but if opponent finds a Grizzlebrand, I'm in trouble, and they have 2 Tormenting Voices to get there. So, not too bad, but we got the one in the yard. We got the one in the yard. I'm still pretty tempted to actually just Thunderkin Awaken her right now so that I hit opponent for more and also get Risen Reef trigger so I'm closer to this Coco. But I know that's not correct. It might need to be correct though. So if I Thunderkin Awaken her, I'm going to attack in for 6. That's actually going to put opponent to the point where this next Thunderkin Awakener is going to make so that they can't pop life off of Grizzlebrand. Oh, that's awful. Alright, well, we're going to throw away a Thunderkin Awaken here for a Risen Reef trigger, and... Okay, well, if you're going to get angered, that's a pretty decent way to rebuild. And that's an even better way to rebuild. Here comes Anger of the Gods! And that is beyond painful. Alright, well, Elemental Mana, go ahead. Alright, well, I suppose that's a thing, and that actually... They have the Through the Breach in hand as well as the Goryo's Vengeance, so I can't imagine they actually go for it, but Noble Hierarch pre-combat so that... Oh, never mind. I can't pay for that now, but whatevs. I want to blow up the Pentad Prism anyway, just in case they do hit multiple card draws in a row. A Tormenting Voice could technically set them up. So let's blow up the Pentad Prism, get our Mana Dork into play. Then next turn can be Risen Reef. They had the Abrade. Alright, well, I mean, opponent drew into another removal spell, so they got it. Collected Company doesn't do a whole lot for me, but I can't imagine opponent has much more interaction left in them, so... Attack in... I'm going to buy back Vesper Lark so I can get Smoke Braider back. This deck does value pretty well. So I actually think I'm going to take Anger of the Gods in their draw step because they're not going to discard the Grizzlebrand. They're just going to Through the Breach it, so may as well get rid of their best board clear against me. Okay, there it is. And we go 2-3. So I have to say that 2 of our losses were to Devoted Druid combo. If I actually wanted to do this, I'd either end up putting a 3-color piece of interaction creature that's not an elemental into this deck, take away the Primal Beyonds, and possibly even trim a couple of the Cavern of Souls, and put Lightning Bolts in, or... Honestly, like, even something akin to an Izzet Charm. It doesn't need to be good, but I actually need hard removal. The Sulfur Elementals on the side are very, very conditional, and the fact that they hit a Vizier are pretty nice just because we lost that matchup, but we also lost to Merfolk, and having a single piece of removal against Merfolk to take out their Lord so we can actually block their creatures would have gone a really long way. The fact that we lost game 1 because Amaro Regery was able to tap down our team while they cast 2 Lords tells me that I need Lightning Bolt or something to kill a creature. And I did try to have fun with the sideboard. If you take a look, it's all elementals with the exception of 2 surgical extractions. I was actually short a surgical extraction when entering the deck list, so we do have a 14-card sideboard in both the deck list and the whatever. There is an additional surgical extraction on the side. We have that in there for combo, and we did see a lot of the strength versus Goryo's at the end there. Gris Shoalbrand, whatever we call the new thing, Ilharg, Brazen Pig, something like that. Surgical is good for the combo interruption. It's not good for value. We stomped on Marty. We lost to Devoted Blade because we just didn't have the interaction. We're a little bit on the slower side. And that's the one thing that needs to change on this deck. 5-color Elementals is actually moderately competitive. We saw a lot of the value of rebuilding. Like, even opponent was able to Anger of the Gods in that last game there, and we had a couple of creatures in the yard, and we just rebuilt. We got our mana back. Like, we were mana screwed, and just bringing back all those mana creatures, our opponent couldn't keep up because they were a slower combo deck. Something fast like Devoted Druid, we need a bolt somewhere in the list for. I don't necessarily know what I'd trim for that if we're on the collected company build. We are well over our creature count for actually hitting large collected companies. We could probably trim 4 cards and put 4 bolts in or 4 paths in or whatever your removal of choice is. Since the formats become more fair, bolt actually is still reliable. Path was required during Hogak, but some removal can go in there. We didn't get to cast Morophon tonight. We did have a fun version of this deck where we were running self-mill. I'll see if I can pull up the card while I'm talking, but we were able to like try to mill ourselves and then use Vesperlark to cheat in to play Multani. That's why we had 2 of them in there. It's clearly didn't work out. There is a problem with that elemental. It's not Groundbreaker. It's Splinter Fright. This guy. Let's pull this up. Blow him up. No, where'd he go? Splinter Fright's power and toughness are equal to the number of creature cards in your yard. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get a mill 2, so he can grow pretty big. And that's actually where this deck started, was essentially hitting this elemental creature and trying to reanimate. The problem is that Star is actually its power and toughness when not in play, unlike Multani, which is actually coming up here as a 0/0. This is a Star. It's a character design attribute, I think is a shorthand for it. So he didn't work, but we had a lot of graveyard reanimation because both the Thunderkin Awakener and Vesperlark would be able to bring back both of those creatures. Not having a way to pitch this into the yard was actually quite bad, and that's why our deck felt a little split there. Targeted removal will help, but I mean, that's essentially where we're at. Guys, I am thirteene. I do a bunch of fun decks for Squirrel Dealer. We have a full history of like 7 months. I believe we're rounding 150 videos for Modern and playing fun decks. As I'm sure you saw tonight, I'm playing Horde of Nations, Yarok, Omnath, Morophon, and the 5-color shell, and just try to cast them and have fun. Not necessarily always making the best play decisions, but it's a hobby. We're here to have fun. We want to have fun. Swole Badger. 4 Charging Badgers were in my list. Played that last week. My schedule is over on the left. I play 3 times a week. Brad one plays twice. He plays a little bit more competitive decks, but again, just kind of trying to hang out and have fun. Feel free to check out our full history there. And thanks for hanging out tonight, and enjoy the rest of your week.